Hi, this is Tim Layton, and I'm going to show you how to build a database application in Microsoft Visual Studio in 10 minutes today. So we better get started. Okay, so what are we using for tools? Visual Studio Professional 2008. Our language will be Visual C#, and of course the database is SQL Server. We're going to do this in 10 minutes or less, and I'm going to go fire up Visual Studio and we'll get started. Okay, we've got Visual Studio up. We're going to do File, New, Project. Waiting for this to come up. We're going to build a Visual C# Windows Form application, and we're going to call this Biz Contacts .NET Framework 3.5. We'll say OK. Going to let this populate, and we've got our initial form up and running here. Let's go ahead and change this right out of the chute, and we're going to do a rename, and we're going to call that form main. And yes, we want to say yes to this. Form main's ready to go. Let's go ahead and change that text in that header, and we're going to call that Business Contacts 1.0, and we're ready to go there. Okay, we're going to add the database. We're going to do this right inside the IDE. We're going to click here. We're going to say add. We're going to add a new item. We're going to click on data. We'll check service-based database, and we'll name this bizcontacts.mdf. We'll say add, and we're going to let that happen here. Okay, we're going to cancel the data source configuration for right now. We'll see that the database has been set up for us here. If we double click this, you'll notice that our Server Explorer has changed here. You'll notice these tabs down here. It's currently working, and it's going to build that for us. Okay, you can see that the database has been built. We're going to take and add a new table. We're going to need a context table, so we're going to say table, add new table, and this is going to be out here, and we're going to take just all the basic fields that you would expect. So we're going to first build a contact ID, which is going to be our primary key, and it's going to increment automatically, and then we'll just go with something simple like name, company, telephone, email, if they're a client, yes or no, and the last time you called them. Okay, so let's start with contact ID, and you're going to see the defaults there. We're going to make that an integer. We'll select that here, and we do not want to allow nulls, and we want to come down here, and where it says identity specification is identity, we want to change that value to yes, and we'll see that its auto increment is set to yes, and the seed is set to 1, and the seed is set to 1. That's exactly what we want to have happen. And this is our primary key, so if you look up here, there it is, set primary key perfectly. You'll see the key right here. Okay, we're going to finish building out the table now, so we're going to go with name, and that'll be fine, but we probably need 50 characters on that. We'll allow nulls on all these fields. Company, once again, we'll change that to 50. Then we'll set up telephone. Sounds about right to me. And we'll probably want to collect their email address. And probably, let's set like a bool field for client. And we'll come up here. We'll want to select bit. That'll be a true or a false. And last call. And we'll make this a date time field. And that is basically our table. Okay, now we need to save this. So click on save, the form comes up, and we'll name this table contacts, and we'll say OK. And we're in good shape. Okay, let's close this out. would be here, and we're going to need to set up a database diagram. This is really the trick to this whole project right here. And we're going to let Visual Studio create these stored procedures for us. So we're going to say yes. It's going to ask us for a table name. Yep, there it is there. We'll say add. And we'll say close here. So now we need to save this diagram. We're going to say File, and we're going to say Save Diagram, and we're going to name this, let's see, Contacts Diagram. We'll say OK. Okay, we're going to go add some data to our table, so we'll have something. So we'll want to expand tables. You'll see table contacts, and we'll see show table data. And it's going to show us here, so I'll just put in my information. Well, better do it this way. Tim Layton, and Associates. Telephone number 555 5-12. Email tim@timlaytonllc.com. Client, no. And you'll see we've got this because it's expecting either true or false. False. And last call, we'll leave that null. And we'll enter one more record here. We'll call this one YouTube. Company is youtube.com. Telephone number, whatever, we're just making something up. user@youtube.com. We'll say they're a client. We'll give it a true flag, and we're ready. All right, we need to save everything. Let's do a file, save all. Okay, we're good to go there. Let's close that out, close out the diagram. We're back at our main form. Now what we need to do is add our data source at this point. Okay, and all we have to do is say data, add new data source, and we're going to leave that database selected and say next. And there's our database. And we definitely want to say yes, save the connection as, and we'll leave that as biz context connection string, that's fine. And we'll say next. And we're going to see our table pop up here in a moment. Letting it do its thing here. Now we're going to choose what we want in our data set. For our simple case, we could choose just tables, but you can check all this, that's fine. Click finish. We've got the name right here, as you can see. And that looks good. Okay, we're going to go look at our data source. We can either do data, show data source, or you can just come down here and click on data sources, and there it is right here. Now what we want to do is, here's our table. You need to make sure you do this so that we get fields instead of a grid view. So we'll click down on here, we'll say details. Now we're going to drag and drop this into our form. And sure enough, you're going to see that all these are bound together. This doesn't maybe look the best, but that's okay. You can see we've got our record navigation, add, edit, delete, save, etc. up here. This was as a result of our previous work. Just a little bit of housekeeping here. We don't want this label, so we'll come down here, change the name of this, the text of this, I'm sorry, to just delete that. And that's gone. Okay, it's PayDirt. Let's see what happens. We're going to build and run this, so you could go into debug and run it this way, or you can just click this button here. It says here, there, it's built and running, folks. Check it out. No errors. You can see we had 2 records here. Tim Layton, there's my information. I could go ahead and toggle that. I could save it. I could go to record 2. I could change this to a different phone number. Click save. That's basically it. The only thing left to do at this point would be to go back into Visual Studio. You could go to build and publish. That would build the installer package for you, and you'd be ready to distribute your application. So there you have it. It was actually less than 10 minutes. You know where to find me. I look forward to your comments, and if I can help, let me know. Take care.